So say it with me. Practice instant reconciliation. The second way to slay the giant or conquer this giant or Goliath of anger is don't take everything personal. Don't take everything personal. I love the classic story about Grandpa and the Limburger cheese. It seems that a couple of mischievous boys wanted to play a joke on Grandpa, so while he napped, they rubbed some Limburger cheese in his mustache. When Grandpa woke up from his nap, he sniffed a little bit and said, "It stinks in here." So he gets up from his favorite recliner chair in the living room and he walked into the kitchen. And then he sniffed again and declared, "It stinks in here too." So he leaves the kitchen. He walks into the hallway that led to his front door. Sure enough, it stunk there too. So he flung the front door open. He took a breath of air, expecting to be fresh air, but once again, the Limburger cheese filled his nostril, and Grandpa shouted in disgust, "My God, the whole world stinks." Did the whole world stink? Of course not. The real problem was under Grandpa's nose. The real problem is not your wife. It's not your children. It's not even your dog. It's that unresolved anger that I'm carrying inside of me that needs to be removed. The Bible says Jesus in 1 Peter 2:21 and 23 in the New Living Translation, "For God called you to do good even if it means suffering, just as Christ suffered for you. He is your example and you must follow in his steps. He never sinned nor ever deceived anyone. He did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. He left his case in the hands of God, who always judges fairly." He didn't take things personal. He released them to God. Then say this: be a listener first before being a responder. James said it, James 1:19 and 20. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Why? Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. Have you ever noticed that the word listen has the letters for the word silent in it? Someone noted that God made us with 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we would listen twice as much as we speak. Listen to understand, not just to give a response. You know how it is if you're married. Your wife's telling you this, that, and you're already in your head. You already got the response. Oh, yeah, she's missing this, though, and I'm going to use it. As soon as she's done yapping, I'm going to tell her, but you didn't think of this, and this is why. This is the real reason. No, sometimes we just got to listen to understand. One more. Don't befriend angry people. Don't befriend angry people. This is what Proverbs says in Proverbs 22, verses 24 and 25. Don't befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people. Why? Or you will learn to be like them. Watch, and endanger your soul. The story is told of a woman who was bitten by a mad dog, a dog with rabies. It looked as if she was going to die of rabies, so the doctor told her that she might as well make out her will. Taking her pen and paper, she began to write. In fact, she wrote and she wrote and she wrote. Finally, the doctor said, "Whew, that surely is a long will that you're making." She replied rather angrily, "Will nothing. I'm making a list of all the people I'm going to bite." In the book that I mentioned earlier, and I encourage you to purchase it if you don't have it in your library, or if you really want to overcome in areas of your life where there's challenges, slaying the giants in your life. Dr. David Jeremiah shares this true story. Reuben Hurricane Carter was a boxer who went from the headlines to Hollywood. He was wrongly convicted of 3 murders. He spent 2 decades in prison, paying the price for someone else's crime before he finally won his freedom. A book and a movie told the story of his troubles. Dr. Jeremiah asked, how would you feel if it happened to you? Sitting in that cell alone for 20 years. What thoughts and emotions would be likely to circulate through your mind? I'll let Reuben offer you these thoughts about his nightmarish experience. Here's his words. The question invariably arises. It has before and it will again. Reuben, are you bitter? And in answer to that, I will say, after all that's been said and done, the fact that the most productive years of my life, between the ages of 29 and 50, have been stolen. The fact that I was deprived of seeing my children grow up, wouldn't you think I would have a right to be bitter? Wouldn't anyone under those circumstances have a right to be bitter? In fact, it would be very easy to be bitter, but that has never been my nature or my lot to do things the easy way. Then he said this, if I have learned nothing else in my life, I've learned that bitterness only consumes the vessel that contains it. And for me to permit bitterness to control or to infect my life in any way whatsoever would be to allow those who imprison me to take even more than 22 years they've already taken. That would make me an accomplice to their crime. Wow. You see, Reuben Carter might have whirled up a hurricane of emotions inside himself. Most people would have done so. But he knew that one crime was enough. Why perpetuate it? Somewhere in all evil, all wrongdoing, somewhere all evil, all wrongdoing must be punctuated. Someone must put down a period instead of a comma. Woo. Otherwise, life is one long sentence without parole. That's good. And I want to say to us men, anger can be punctuated. We do so when we reverse it and release it to God. One day, many years ago, a man was beaten and tortured. He was spat upon and robbed. He endured every insult imaginable. Then he was nailed to a cross, hanging there in darkness and mockery, blood flowing from nearly every part of his body. He might have yelled out curses to all his killers. As a matter of fact, he might have done more than that. Awesome power was in his grasp. But Jesus knew how to reverse the evil. He took it all within his aching body, and he offered up a prayer of forgiveness. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, he said. And isn't that almost always true? When we've been wrong, people know not what they do. When Jesus chose that reaction, the greatest of all miracles occurred. Sin wasn't ignored, it was healed. Death itself was destroyed. A long chain of evil dating all the way back to creation was broken. And even more, a new pattern was established. You and I are to live out that pattern. Good for evil, blessings for curses, compassion for aggression. The day we do this, the miracles begin. The day we do this, we're liberated from a self-imposed prison, and we are granted to live a life full of peace and joy. Men, I want to remind you again that regardless because of the anger that you've been dealing with. Today is the day to deal with it. A blow that lets it know you're no longer my master. I'm no longer a slave to you. God has given me abounding grace, supernatural imparted ability, and now I can have mastery over you. Today, I will not maintain unresolved anger. I'm releasing it to God because I will not let it unravel my life. Give God praise because He is our victory.